House will come to order. Members, our prayer today be given by Carl Sanders. He is president of the Alabama Peanut Production Association and is a Coffee County farmer.
Would you bow with me, please? Dear Lord, we just thank you for this wonderful state that you've given us. It's such a wonderful place to live and work and raise a family. And dear Lord, we just thank you for these representatives, these men and women that are willing to give their time in service to our state. And dear Lord, I just ask that you would give them strength and give them wisdom and give them guidance. And I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Member State's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Jamison Ellis. He is a sixth grader at Evangelist Christian School and the son of Ron Corey Ellis.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Speaker, Almond, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracey, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Coffin, Crawford, Daniels, Drummond, Dubose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hulk, Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Rogers, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shedd, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrell, Stodhagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whitt, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood, D, Wood, R, Woods, Yarborough.
"64 members have an answered roll. Quorum is present. The House is ready to transact business. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Madison, Representative Rigsby.
Thank you for your recognition, Mr. Chairman. At this time, Mr. Chair, I would move that the floor privileges be granted to Joseph Pelfrey, Marshall Space Flight Center Director, astronaut Raja Shari, Brigadier General for the United States Air Force, and Dr. Kimberly Robinson, CEO of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center.
Are there any objections? Here are no objections. Floor privilege is granted.
Thank you for the recognition again, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, today on March the 5th, we gather to celebrate Space Day here in Alabama. This day holds great significance for our state as we reflect on the profound impact the aerospace industry has had on Alabama and the world at large. Alabama has long been at the forefront of space exploration, playing a pivotal role in shaping humanity's journey beyond Earth's atmosphere. Alabama's significant contributions to space exploration, technology development, and aerospace manufacturing have solidified its reputation as a key player in the global space industry. The state's ongoing efforts continue to shape the future of space exploration and inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. Our state is proud to be the home of Marshall Space Flight Center, a beacon of innovation and excellence in space technology. Under the leadership of Director Joseph Pelfrey, who joins us today, Marshall Space Flight Center has spearheaded groundbreaking missions and advancements that have propelled mankind into the cosmos. Furthermore, we are privileged to welcome esteemed guests who have made invaluable contributions to Alabama's aerospace landscape. We also welcome Colonel Raja Shari, an accomplished pilot and one of 18 astronauts selected for the Artemis program. Colonel Shari's dedication to space exploration embodies the spirit of our state's commitment to pushing the boundaries of discovery. We are also honored to have with us Dr. Kimberly Robinson, the visionary CEO of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, an institution of inspiration and aspiration for aspiring astronauts and scientists alike. Dr. Robinson's leadership has ensured that Alabama remains a hub of innovation and education in the field of aerospace. As we commemorate this special day, let us not forget the remarkable achievements that Alabama has contributed to the world of space exploration. In 2022, Marshall Space Flight Center played a pivotal role in the development and launch of Artemis I, a mission that paved the way for humanity's return to the moon. Looking ahead, Artemis II promises to carry out this legacy with a crew of 4, including Christina Cook, a Space Camp alumna, who will make history as the first woman to fly around the moon. Additionally, we celebrate the recent success of United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket, proudly built in Decatur, Alabama. Its maiden launch on January 8th marked a monumental milestone in our state's aerospace industry and represents the next generation launch vehicle. Today, as we look to the stars with hope and excitement, let us reaffirm our commitment to pushing the boundaries of exploration, innovation, and discovery. Together, let us continue to reach for the stars and inspire future generations to dream big and reach even greater heights. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would humbly request that the clerk read the Space Day resolution.
Mr. Clerk, read the resolution, please.
Whereas NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center has contributed numerous advancements to the world in science and rocket propulsion technology over the past 6 decades, including taking Americans to the moon. And whereas Marshall Space Flight Center is responsible for generating $8.3 billion in economic impact while supporting more than 41,000 jobs across Alabama. Marshall Space Flight Center serves as a major economic development asset and technology magnet for Alabama and the Southeast. And whereas Marshall Space Flight Center brings additional benefits to the state through continued advanced discoveries, STEM outreach, strengthening national security, deepening partnerships across the country and around the world, and inspiring a new generation of scientists, engineers, and explorers. And whereas Marshall Space Flight Center, through a strong legacy of accomplishments such as the Space Launch System for the Artemis missions, the International Space Station, Hubble Space Telescope, James Webb Telescope, Chandra X-ray Observatory, and Imaging X-ray Explorer mission, is developing robust missions to expand outstanding understanding of our planet, solar system, and the universe. And whereas NASA astronauts Clifton Williams, Henry Hartsfield, Kathy Thornton, James Voss, Mae Jemison, Jan Davis, and Catherine Heyer, each from Alabama, have spent over 320 days in space across 18 flights of the Marshall-managed Space Shuttle program, with Jemison the first African-American in space, and Davis flying together aboard STS-47 in 1992. And whereas Alabamians are exceedingly proud of the distinguished achievements of the Marshall Space Flight Center and the advances in space exploration, technology, and science it has produced for the benefit of all humanity. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that we hereby proclaim March 5th, 2024, as Space Day in the state of Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Thank you, colleagues, and a happy Space Day.
Thank you, Representative Rigsby. Job well done. I think our guests have some remarks to make, so at this time we'll turn the mic over to them.
Well, thank you so much. We are so happy to be here celebrating Space Day at Alabama's Capitol. I want to say thank you to all the wonderful supporters out there that support the mission of NASA and Marshall Space Flight Center, and certainly our friends of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. All of you, including the governor and the lieutenant governor, we are so thankful and filled with gratitude for all that you do to make this nation great. I'm so happy to have these wonderful guests with us that we could bring along today. I just want to mention on behalf of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center that we have a lot of benefits that we offer to Alabama, and we urge you each to take advantage of them. You have a unique resource in your state that you helped set up and establish. And as one of the largest Smithsonian affiliates and the longest running and largest STEM camp in the world, we want to let you know that we are at your service. So please come. As you know, we have a SALSA program where you can send 2 middle schoolers from each legislative district to us for free for a week-long residential camp. We also have Space Academy for educators, giving a full ride scholarship and a certificate with plenty of CEUs to teachers in our state. Teachers of the Year from all over the country come for this benefit, and you have it in the state of Alabama. Ultimate Field Trips is a one-day directed field trip for those that can't afford it to come and experience our wonderful facilities for a day with directed learning at no cost. And we also have 60% tuition discounts for school groups that come for our week-long residential program. These are programs that sell out every year, but you have an opportunity to come and at a much reduced cost to the rest of the nation and to the world. So as you can see, we love our Alabama family, and we continue to find ways to help inspire and equip all of the students for careers right here at home, creating the workforce that we need as we continue to grow in areas ranging from space exploration to ag tech to auto manufacturing, but helping support the wonderful work of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center and the rest of the NASA agency. So thank you for your help to keep all of this moving forward and your continued partnership and investment in the Space and Rocket Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing us to be here for a minute for the resolution and the honor to celebrate Space Day in Alabama, to recognize the amazing achievements of folks in your communities to advance our nation's goals in space exploration. For more than 6 decades, Marshall Space Flight Center has been leading the way in humanity's exploits in space. Through the Apollo missions, to building the International Space Station, through groundbreaking scientific discoveries, and what we're doing now with the Artemis campaign. Marshall's leading the development of the Space Launch System and the Human Landing System, as well as the technologies needed to protect our astronauts on these journeys into space. Next year, we'll celebrate our 65th birthday, and we're just getting started in leading our nation's exploration goals to return humans to the moon for the first time in over 50 years, and also go further to land humans to Mars on the first time. The work you guys are doing each day contributes to our ability to attract and retain and develop the workforce we need to accomplish these amazing goals. So thank you for what you're doing in giving our folks a great place to live, work, and play. We cannot do our mission without that and the work you do each day and the support you provide to Marshall Space Flight Center and all of our industry and academic partners that we need to accomplish the missions we have for the future. So I'm very humbled and excited to serve as the 15th Center Director of Marshall Space Flight Center. We have a tremendous team. Your friends, your colleagues, your family members come to work every day to do some amazing feats and put Alabama back on the map again in returning humans to the moon and going to Mars. It's very easy to say that our path to deep space runs through Alabama. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your time, and continue to reach for the stars.
Thanks, Joseph and Dr. Robinson. I'll keep it short. Most of my things are saying thanks. So thanks, first off, for the hospitality of bringing me here today to be able to see Space Day. Thanks for my family and all the astronauts' families for getting us safely to the space station and back, and for keeping us safe and continuing to put the human and human space flight first. And then thanks, lastly, for enabling the Artemis generation. So Space Day is a great spark, but there is no fire from just a spark. So I challenge you, because you are the ones who have the resources and the ability to grow that spark into an ember and a flame. So we've planted it. We've made the spark with some kids today. I'm sure there is some new interest, but that can't go anywhere without help from you and helping the efforts you already have ongoing to turn that spark into a flame to get us back to the moon and onto Mars. So thanks, Alabama, for Space Day, and I look forward to coming back to Marshall to keep working on the programs that are going to get us to the moon and Mars.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The kids up in the gallery is from FCCLA of Cleburne County, and see in Alabama you can be an astronaut, right? Let's give them a big shout out. Thank y'all for being with us. NAFA of Alabama is also with us. Let's give them a shout out today up in the gallery. Thank y'all for being with us. Also in the gallery today is Robertsdale Central Baldwin Chamber of Commerce, Junior Executives, and Mayor Charles Murphy. Let's give them a big hand for being with us today. We got the Montgomery Mayor's Young Professional Council of Montgomery and his guest of the Montgomery County Delegation. Thank y'all for being with us. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hard to follow an astronaut. I request a leave of absence be granted for absent members.
Here, no objection. The absent members are excused. The chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 12th Legislative Day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 12th Legislative Day be dispensed with.
Are there any objections? Here, no objections. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern, for the purpose of making announcements.
Mr. Speaker and members, the Alabama peanut producers are handing out peanut butter in room 429. Alabama Recovery Advocacy Day today in room 200 from 1 to 3. School Superintendents of Alabama legislative reception today at the warehouse at Alley Station from 5 to 6. Alabama Association of Regional Councils legislative reception today at RSA Plaza from 5 to 7. Alabama Hospital Association reception today at the RSA Plaza Terrace from 5 to 7. Huntsville Madison Chamber and Madison Chamber of Commerce reception today at the Renaissance Hotel from 6 to 7:30. For tomorrow, Breakfast with Main Street Alabama held tomorrow from 7:30 to 8:30 at the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Disability Advocacy Day will be tomorrow, March 6th at the State House steps. Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn today, that we leave the journal open to allow the clerk to complete his paperwork, and that we reconvene on Wednesday, March 6th at 4 p.m.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The motion prevails. Clerk now receive reports. Standing committees receive their reports throughout the day. The House is now in position to introduce bills and resolutions. Clerk will call the first bill on the uncontested local bills.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill number 170 by Representative Oliver relating to the town of Jackson Gap.
Question for the body on HB 170 is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 62 ayes, 0 nays, 34 abstentions. The BR has been adopted. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 170. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 14 ayes, 0 nays, 84 abstention. HB 170 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill number 231 by Representative Smith relating to Chilton County.
Question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 57 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Question for the body's final passage of HB 231. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 12 ayes, 0 nays. HB 231 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill number 252 by Representative Pettis relating to Lauderdale County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 59 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question for the body now is the passage of HB 252. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 8 ayes, 0 nays. HB 252 has passed. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a resolution.
Clerk, receive resolution.
House Resolution number 83 by the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
Move adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk, call first bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, House Bill number 138 by Representative Reynolds relating to a supplemental appropriation.
Chairman Reynolds, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Members, this is adding technical language needed by the Executive Budget Office. HB 138 is an appropriation bill to fund the Alabama State Small Business Credit Initiative. That amount is $97 million, and again, it is an appropriation bill, but it's just language related to our compliance with the federal government to do this. So with that, I'll call for the BR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the recognition. I just want to ask the gentleman's chairman if he would yield for a moment.
I will, sir.
Or two, or three. You answered the question I was going to ask first and foremost, the amount, 97 million, you say. And it's supplemental appropriation. What are the processes involved in getting these funds for these businesses?
So the appropriation would be available after this body and the Senate passes this bill. So in the media right now and on the website for the Small Business Initiative is say that it'll be ready in early of 2024. So with the action of this body in the Senate, those funds then will become available.
Okay. After the bill become law, I know that, but what are the processes? If I want to apply, how do what I go to the website?
You do. Go to the Small Business Credit Initiation on the website, and it will direct you to the application process and give you the certifications on doing that. This is mainly targeted at startup businesses and small businesses, and the allocations can be between $500,000 and $2 million.
Okay, I can get up to 500, $2 million out of this 97 million.
You could.
What is the payback?
Well, this is done through Innovate Alabama, and those.
I get that kind of money. Don't have to pay back. Don't have to pay it back.
Yeah, no. The ARPA funds, as you know, are not paid back to the federal government.
So these are good federal dollars that we are looking at.
They are federal dollars.
And I think there's probably a much better way that we can use the ARPA funds that other than giving away to small businesses, there's a lot of people in this state need help financially as far as medical assistance. And see, we are in a position to help. You know, there are 300,000 people without medical assistance. Do you really know that? 300,000?
Well, you do recall.
And these are the working poor. These are people that work in 2 jobs, can't afford insurance.
Yeah. As you recall, we gave $100 million to hospitals, certainly for exactly what you're talking about back during the ARPA allocations.
You gave it to the hospitals, and I'm talking about to the individuals themselves. They are working every day. Some working 2 jobs and can't afford insurance. But we can find ways to give away money.
Well,
I mean, that's wrong. I mean, small businesses. That's the backbone of our nation. Small business, not the big corporations. But we're going to invest in them, but we're not investing in the root resources who are the citizens of this state. So I'm not coming to debate this bill. I just want to get up here and run my mouth a little bit because I want to talk about something else. But I won't open it up right now. But I'll be back. There are some, I think some improprieties that are happening in this chamber that can't get resolutions up and out. And so I'm gonna come back. I'm not gonna debate this good bill, but I just want to let the people know I'm fighting up here every day for the small citizens, those who don't have a voice in this state.
And you know, a small business can be one person.
And I'm one of those persons. I'm fighting for them too. But if they're already in business, they're gonna always find a way to get more. And that's what I know. So you can't legislate what's in a man's heart. He's corrupt. The Bible says it's evil corruption, you know, and wicked, and desperately wicked. The Lord said that. And so who knows the heart but God? So he always going to devise a way, man does, to get a lot more for the little. The devil's always in the details. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Jackson.
Chair thanks the gentleman. I'd like to recognize Calhoun County 4-H sponsor David West. Their guests are Representative Randy Wood, Steve Hurst, Barbara Boyd, Chad Roberts, and Mark Gidley. Let's give them a big hand for being with us today. Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machines. Record the votes. Somebody got Miss Hall. 90 ayes, 0 nays, 5 abstentions. The BR has been adopted. Chairman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Calvert, Representative Underwood. Question for the body is final passive, HB 138. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. HB 138 has passed.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 9 of the calendar, House Bill number 176 with substitute by Representative Lomax relating to aviation.
Representative Lomax, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, last year, this body set up the Advanced Air Mobility Joint Study Task Force Committee, and we met over the summer, came up with a lot of different ideas, met with the experts. But the number one thing that came out of this committee was this bill. This bill would help set a framework for advanced air mobility within the state of Alabama. It would empower the Department of Transportation to lead that up, to set out a statewide plan And from there, then they would be able to implement that plan as well. This is something, a lot of people ask what advanced air mobility is. I say it's kind of like the Jetsons. It's literally unmanned aircraft that are going to be moving people and things. So it's really something in the future that could be an economic development and workforce tool. With that, I call for the currently required BIR vote.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jim, you yield.
I do.
And I had some other things to say, but why did you say currently required BIR vote?
Well, that was tongue in cheek. We have an amendment on the ballot today, the primary ballot.
But that doesn't have anything to do with, that's with local bills and state budget.
Okay.
Well, your bills still have to have a BIR.
All right.
At the end of the day. So from that question, I'm asking you, what type of cost factor is associated with this bill?
There's roughly, they came up with a figure to perform this plan, and it's roughly about $600,000 to implement.
Starting out and with no projections of how much it's going to cost annually with increases.
They expect it to be that the upfront you have a plan, so the plan would cost the most, and then going forward would be not nearly as much to implement.
Probably a reduction in the cost. Let me ask you about the education component of it. When it talks about the educational, statewide education campaign, what would that entail?
So that would be more educating. The Department of Transportation would then be educating municipalities and counties on how these rules affect them, as well as airports potentially.
Okay, it would be nothing with them going into our schools, talking about the various educational career opportunities that could come from this.
No, ma'am.
Okay. At some point, you all want to consider that?
Well, if it reaches that point, it's a technology we don't know enough about yet.
Okay.
But I do think in the future it's something that...
Futuristic, because that's the first thing I spotted on, especially with how technologically savvy our young people are today. And when you're talking about futuristic developments, that's something I'm sure that some of them might even eye as going to school or getting some extra training as they matriculate through education to prepare themselves for it. But I was wondering who was that group you were going to education. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 103 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Lomax.
Yeah, at this point, we do have a committee sub.
You care to explain the committee sub?
Yes, sir. So the committee sub essentially is language from the Department of Transportation that no funds from the Road and Bridge Fund could be applied towards this initiative.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Lomax.
I'd like to ask for final passage as substituted.
That is a question, is final passage of HB 176. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 176 has passed.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, body.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 16 of the calendar, House Bill number 196 with substitute by Representative Ingram relating to property.
Chairman Ingram, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 196 is a revenue bill. We've inherited about 19,000 properties since the 90s, and this gives them a tool in the toolbox to be able to disperse these properties, these abandoned properties. And with that, I ask for the BR, Mr. Speaker.
That is question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machines and the members will vote. Clerk will
Thank you,
lock the machine, record the votes, 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I ask final passage
I'm so in sub.
of the sub. Ask to adopt the sub.
You care to explain your sub?
The only, let's see. I don't have a copy of that. Let's see, thanks. Give me just a minute, Mr. Speaker. I didn't think there was a sub.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Chairman, Representative Hall is coming up. You can explain it to her and all of us at the same time. That'll be good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I have a copy, and so what I was trying to determine is, if you start on page 1, what is the difference
Is this
between...
on the sub or
On the
oh,
sub, right.
okay, on the sub.
When it says the land commissioners shall maintain a list of all the lands that have been bid in for state.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was a process, and it had years related to it. What was the reason for changing that? Did that because it made it
I
easier?
can't hardly hear you, Ms. Hall.
All right. On the changes, the number of years from the time that a bid had been in the state, when 3 years.
Right, from 3 years. and
Okay.
That's right. It
So
was.
does that still remain, because you struck through that?
I think what this was, if I'm not mistaken, was just 3 years was the redemption time.
Right.
And most of these have gone way past the redemption. Some of these are from the 90s. And so these are a lot longer than the 3 years at this
So,
time.
are these-
Because we changed the law back in 2018 to where we don't inherit any property anymore. It goes to the counties now. And so we don't inherit anymore. These are just the remnants from it. But on this part,
But let me stop you right there. When we did this before, weren't we talking about property where sales tax and all of that had not been paid, and then the county or the city came in and claimed it because of the lack of payment? Is this
Right.
the same process?
it's the same process.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And-
And this is the ones mostly that nobody bid on. When it went to the courthouse steps, this is the properties that didn't get a bid. And they would end up back with the state and the counties. So these are the properties that never got a bid. They were just abandoned. Nobody wanted to bid on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just saying,
They had no value. Most of these are just either abandoned houses on a
Yeah.
floodplain or in a drainage easement area, or they're just all bad partials of property, and we just need to. There's a liability to the state, and we just need to get rid of them.
and so I was determined, who determines the bad property?
I don't know
is it
who
the-
determines the bad property. I guess that would be the person that would either not bid on it or bid on it at a tax sale when it's on the courthouse steps.
So if it
Because
does-
these are the ones that never got a bid. And that's the only process we've had on these, other than them writing revenue and somebody may be contiguous to it or something like that, to where, they may want that piece of property just because it'll make their property a little more attractive. But nobody really buys these. We want to put them online, or the revenue department wants to put them online, so we can have out-of-state bidders and more access to it. Nobody really knows about these properties.
And that was a part that got my attention. It appeared that people were not aware, or if
Right.
they were aware, they chose not to. And I was trying to determine, is this air property? Is that sometimes that may be the case?
Yeah, most of the time, if it's heirs property, that more than likely had value to it, and somebody would bid on it. These are properties that most of the people just abandon, or either it has a fallen down house on it, and the house would, the liability of being able to tear it down may cost $20,000, and the land may be worth $200. It's more of a liability than anything. And a lot of these fall inside of a municipality where nobody's mowing the grass or keeping it up.
I understand.
And if we can turn this back in, nobody's paying any taxes on it now. We can turn this property back around to where, the education component of the millage tax could be collected. and also the municipal and the county and the state tax will be paid on it.
And the length of time is after 3 years. Is that
That's
still?
right. That's the current.
That still exists.
That's
the
right.
Timeline.
We're not changing anything on that. The only thing we're changing, only thing this bill does is for them to be able to liquidate the properties that the state inherited. There's nothing being changed on the law on how the delinquent property is being sold or anything like that.
So let me ask you one more. So when I read on page 1, where that information, it's that land which has been bid in by the state with the amount of the state and the county taxes, the date which was bid in, when 3 years have lapsed from the date of the sales, such portion of lands have not been redeemed, it shall be subject to.
And that's the part that struck out. That didn't need to be in here, is what I understand. Now, I may be wrong. I can ask revenue, but this has nothing to do with remarketing the properties.
But
that law doesn't change on the the sale of being able to redeem it back.
But that's what confuses me. It seems that you're saying the 3 years still exists, but it seems that you've taken it out.
No, we're taking it off of this bill that's been struck.
Right.
That's the part
That's
struck
right.
out.
But so
it didn't have anything to do with selling the properties, is what I understand.
So I see on the next page, it does say, then it goes down, it does tell you the amount, a legal description of property, the amount of I'm on page 2.
Right.
And after 3 years
On
from
line
the date of the sale, that have not been redeemed shall be subject to sale. I got it.
That's right. Exactly.
Thank you.
The new wordage is on B right there. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is the adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Thank you.
Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The committee sub has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask final passage with the sub.
That is the question, is final passage as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. HB 196 is passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 173 by Representative Halsey, relating to education.
Representative Halsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, HB 173 will prohibit using the 3 queuing system of education or educational instruction in our public K through 12 schools. Simply put, this strategy involves prompting students to draw on context, sentence structure, and letters to identify words in the place of phonics. I do have a sub, but with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the BIR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, you yield.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to make a general comment, because if you have children that are being taught to read by the method that you're getting rid of, and we've already, and it's obvious the method that's been used has not been successful, but we've already passed bills to say that if they are not, by 3rd grade, able to read on level. I know when all of those bills have come up, one of the things we've asked is, what do you do to correct what children are experiencing? And the majority body didn't want to listen at that. Rather, we put in programs to, if a child is not able to read on grade level, they'll be held back. And we knew all the time this situation is existing, where children are shown a picture and said, what do you think that is? It might be a horse, but they might call it a donkey or something else, but that's not an effective way to teach a child to read. Also, when we pass these bills where a child could be held back either in third grade or if they're not first grade ready, one of the comments that we brought to the table is that there are school districts throughout the state of Alabama that do not have K-4 classes, nor kindergarten 5-year-old classes, where children can begin that learning process first, being in a learning environment, second, learning to read so that they can be prepared for first grade and for third grade. So now we have a bill that say we're going to stop a certain way we teach children to read. Now, I would dare say that those school districts that's using this process, some of their children, when they get to third grade, will not be reading on grade level, but we already done put in place punishment for them, rather than the state doing what's being done now. Before we put in place the consequence, we should have gone in and corrected the problem that existed that would have prevented our children from being able to read on grade level. And I just take issue to that because we haven't been able to talk the Queen's English in a way that your party has understood, because the consequences are already in place. There's no way possible in those school districts. This year, if we pass this bill here, you got some second graders that are going to third grade because this is not an effective way to teach reading. Those young people are not going to be prepared. But at the end of the day, it's okay for the start. But I just want the body to understand, until this body start talking to educators before we bring these bills of consequence before the body, then we're always going to be a step behind. It's a basic good thing you're doing, but it's a day late and a dollar short for those children that's going through this process now. Next year, if they're going to third grade, some of these children are going to be held behind because this has been the method of teaching them how to read, which was not and has never been an effective way of teaching our children to read. I hope you take it in the right spirit, that before we put the consequences in place, we should have been looking at our school districts across this state to see what did they have in place that we needed to correct. We put charter schools in place. That's not going to correct it. We opened up the doors for virtual schooling. None of those things are going to correct it because those school districts had the opportunity, and some of them are using this method of teaching their children to read. Because even though it's a horse and I call it a donkey, then whenever I see the word horse, I won't know what it is anyway. Right. So, and that has an impact on their ability to read. And that's why we needed to have gotten rid of it before we put the consequences in place. So I don't know, maybe what the Education Committee has in place is that we still will have to do something for those students next year that should pass on to the third grade, but they can't because they're not reading on grade level. I would hope that we get an amendment or a bill that we do something to protect those students because they're going to be held back because we put the consequence in place before we corrected the action. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the lady from Morgan, Chairwoman Collins.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank you, Representative Hulsey, for working with this. You came to an education conference and heard about this and how 3Qing can actually get in the way of children learning to read the words on the page. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate your willingness to work with the Department of Education and with others that are working on that. And so I believe this is a practice that has kept children from reading in the past, and we simply need to stop it. And so I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Winston, Representative Wadsworth.
The gentlelady yield.
Yes, sir.
I just want to understand this bill. What is the 3Qing system?
So basically, it's using syntax or sentence structure, sight words, like trying to figure out how to read through association of context clues around you. It absolutely ignores.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
It absolutely ignores teaching phonics so that kids understand how to sound out letters, to form words, to become readers.
Do they not do phonics now? Do some do it?
In
some
this
don't?
in the 3Qing system, they do not use phonics.
Who uses this 3Qing system currently?
I can't tell you a specific school. I don't know that.
Okay. And what will be the teaching method if you don't use the 3Qing system? And I'm not against the bill. I just want to
Sure,
understand
it's teaching kids phonics, learning how to actually sound out letters. Sound out those letters, form the ability to sound out an entire word using that knowledge, and then truly become readers versus having no ability as things get harder to actually decipher or decode a word because you've never been exposed to it before.
Okay.
And you didn't learn how to sound things out.
And I know I just asked this, and you may not know the answer, but is there certain schools that are using this 3Qing system?
I don't know for sure that they are. I think the biggest concern is probably that they may be using them as secondary, but there may be some that are using it as primary. I'm not sure.
Okay. Is the State Board of Education for the bill? I can't hear you. Is the State Board of Education for the bill?
Yes, they had full input in this bill.
Do what?
They had full input in this bill.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Young lady Yield.
Yes, ma'am.
I think Representative Wadsworth was asking some of the questions that I had as to what is the 3Qing system.
Yes, ma'am.
And who's actually using that now? What grades are up? Is it pre-K, kindergarten, or where are we using this system?
So I don't know specifically where it is being used. I would assume, obviously, in your elementary schools because it's teaching reading, right? So I'm going to assume it's being used primarily by your primary schools. But essentially, it is really just continuing. It uses context clues or visual clues. Sorry. I lost my train of thought there.
You see the cues, the visual part.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So basically, it's just using context, sentence structure, or letters, or like learning a word by memorization versus actually being able to decode it and sound it out.
So in other words, you're saying this is the way I was taught to read by C. Dick run after Sally, Sally. I wasn't taught to read by phonics, okay?
Good guess.
I mean,
Yes.
it was memory of words, and I hadn't thought about it, so I just started doing it because my dad taught me how to read, and that was the way I was taught to read, not by phonics. So this is, and you start associating the words with the pictures that you saw.
Correct.
And that's how when you saw Dick run, you say Dick was running. So this is basically what you're saying here is that this is not teaching the phonics way of, and is not being successful with kids.
Correct. The evidence strongly supports that this is ineffective.
And you have no information as to if we have people using this today, or, I mean, is it a problem? Well, I think
We
is it
do
a-
have people using it. I just can't tell you who they are. I don't know who's using it.
Okay. So this is what we're trying to do, and so in other words, the bulk of our teachers are teaching phonics for kids to read. That's it.
I would assume so, and I think that is correct.
Okay. All right. That's why I just wanted to know, because like I said, I was taught to see Dick run, and then Dick ran, and Sally came behind him, and all other stuff, and it wasn't phonics. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. What's for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. BIR is adopted. Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I have a committee sub that addresses really just some vulnerabilities by adding some language, and it helps prevent some of those vulnerabilities. And then it will clarify some specific language that's utilized in Alabama. But with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt this bill as substituted.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the sub. Representative Boyd, do y'all want to talk on the sub or the bill? Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lady yield.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to give you the sub number. So BBKL4JJ1. That's what I have as a sub. Do I have the correct one?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now in some of my subs, folks help me out by giving us the coloring to indicate where the changes are. So could you tell me what the vulnerabilities are that you're referring to as it relates? You said it removes some vulnerabilities. I'm not sure I am understanding what you're doing.
Sure, and I do want to say that these were brought to my attention and handled and addressed really with the Board of Education as things that they felt made these vulnerables, exist, so to speak. So I'll kind of walk through it. Line 38 through 42, we changed this, and so it's where we defined educator preparation program. And what we did is we added state approved to that definition. Okay. So making sure that we don't have any vulnerability there is essentially making sure that they're following the regulations for other state approved programs. One of the other things, anywhere else that state approved existed in this bill was struck because we added it in the definition right there. So if you saw educator preparation program, that clarified that. So let's see if there was anything else on that one. No, that's it for 38 through 42. So then on 62 through 70, and lines 85 through 88. So it's going to be both of those. So what it does, in a couple of places, the words, and I'm using this.
Hold up just a minute.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So now will you go back to line 62 through 70?
Yes, ma'am. So in a couple places, the words, and this is in quotes, those that employ the 3 queuing system model of reading.
Mr. Speaker, I can't hear. Hello, Mr. Speaker, I can't hear. Go ahead. I can't hear, Mr. Speaker. I can't hear. Thank you.
If I can have everybody's attention just for a minute. For some reason, we're unusually loud today. We must have had a good weekend. But anyway, let's kind of keep it down to a small roar. We can't hear what's going on up here, and I couldn't hear what
Thank
she
you.
was asking. So
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
So line 62 through 70, you're telling me this is a correction for what?
So there were a couple places that this phrase was used. Those that employ the 3 queuing system model of reading, that's removed in lines 62 through 70 because it's a repeat phrase and is now stated more clearly at the end of the sentence.
And it's stated more clearly where?
At the end of the sentence.
Where it says,
so on
that reading,
line 68, where at the end it says, or the 3 queuing system model of reading. So it's put there.
I still didn't understand where you are. Are you
So
still,
basically-
are you still on the line 62 through 70?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so all reading instruction material approved for use in Alabama schools starts that sentence, and then it goes through the vetting and selection process shall not include visual memory for teaching word recognition or 3 queuing system model of reading based on meaning, structure, and syntax and visual cues. So now that's what I've read.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm flipping to the page so I can find it, and I can maybe. Do you have the original filed with you and the
I'm fine with the substitute as long as you can explain to me what this substitute is doing versus what we start. Now, I'll start out with telling you I have some real concerns, but I needed to hear why we are where we are and for what reason that we are at this point in saying that we as legislators are going to talk about how reading is taught. One of the biggest challenges I find in serving is that those of us that serve find ourselves making rules or laws, and we have, in terms of the education or the background for giving what is best for the children. So I'm trying to understand how we got to where we are.
And I understand that. And I do want to reiterate that the Board of Education is the one that made these changes. So
they made the changes?
They made these changes, yes. So basically, that phrase is repeated multiple times. So it's just removed so that there's not so much redundancy. And it's placed at the end of the sentence just to make it more clear and put it right there at the tail end of that sentence. That's it.
Can you tell me what has happened? What caused this? What brought about this? Why is this necessary? Maybe that's what I should
I think it's necessary because it's proven that it does not teach children how to read. It does not equip them with the skills needed to actually decode words, learn how to read.
What does not teach children to read?
3 queuing, that system, that educational curriculum does not teach kids how to read.
What teaches children how to read?
Learning how to actually sound words out, using phonetics to make sure that kids understand how to break a word down, sound it out, and learn how to say it. The science of reading.
Representative, I didn't ask you. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
But it's just, it's giving kids the tools to learn how to actually sound words out, put them together, and have that knowledge. When you are teaching kids just simply how to remember a word based on how it's written, but you don't have any clue how to actually sound that word out, you're not really learning how to use the phonetic skills to apply those to other words that you've never seen. So if you've never seen those words and you get to it, you have no tools in place whatsoever to do that. So that's what 3Qing does, and why we want to make sure it's not in our classrooms, because we do want our kids to be able to learn how to truly read and be equipped to do that.
So is there evidence today that that is still happening in teaching?
It is happening in the state, yes ma'am.
And so what, so we passed the reading bill, the reading readiness bill for third grades. The bill, we made, what do we call it, the reading, getting ready, being able to read by third grade. So it is your belief that the fact that we're using the 3Qing system is why we have the problem with children being unable to read by third grade?
I can't argue that that would be the case in every situation, because I don't know each and every situation. What I do know is that this method does not work. It underserves our children, and we need to make sure that we continue to put them in front of a curriculum that actually teaches them the science of reading, and make sure that we are progressing all of our kids, so by the time they are in third grade and they take those tests, they're reading on grade level and they're fine.
I mean, I'm familiar with that, and so that it's every child learns different. There's not a child that comes into the classroom learns everything the same way. Now, there are a majority of them that learn based on sight. Some are good at sight. I think the key thing that I'd be concerned about with the Department, and not that I'm, the Department of Education, is that we prepare the teachers to be able to meet and provide the resources so that the educator is able to meet the needs of the children. We have so many children that come with so many other needs. The teacher is required to teach them, but yet also provide sometimes that assistance. But if we had resources that was necessary to assist those children, every child does not come to school at the same level on the same page where he or she goes to kindergarten or not. They don't. And so I'm looking for what triggered this, what caused us to be at this place, and was it because of the reading
Ladies' time has expired. Question for the body is adoption of the committee sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The committee sub has been adopted. Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I move for final passage of HB 173 as substituted.
You recognize the lady from Calhoun, Representative Boyd.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, come on, let's listen and reason. I'm not attacking you in the first place. I guess my first question to you would be, what does the sub do to improve from the original?
So the sub essentially just, there were some vulnerabilities they felt that if they added some language and clarified it would prevent those things from being an issue. And then it just clarified some language to make it in alignment with verbiage that is already used in the state of Alabama.
Do you know any other states that are using this method or has used it?
I don't know what's going on in the other states.
Do you know that this is National Reading Month? Please listen, ladies and gentlemen of the House. I just don't come down here just to hear all this noise in my ears. Whether you agree with me or not, as the speaker has said, it is just common courtesy to each other to just listen. If you have to talk, just whisper. And you say, who do I think I am to stand up here and say that? Because I'm a school teacher. And noise, I do not tolerate noise. So just please me, just give me just a little bit of respect, and I would appreciate it. Thank you. What I'm trying to say, this is National Reading Month. Alabama, in a sense, has always looked upon as being at the bottom, ignorant, whatever else you say. I don't want us to put a message out. Again, when emphasis is on reading, are you familiar with individualized instruction? All right, that's why I don't want to attack you, because it's just a process. There are so many methods by which you teach reading, and we're not going to get ahead even in my state until we learn to individualize. You can't teach the same skills to everybody. You got to deal with skills. You got to deal with a lot of things. I wish that this, how did you come, what impressed you to bring this, especially during National Reading Month?
Well, that's just coincidental. But as Representative Collins mentioned, I'd gone to an education policy conference this past summer and just heard a lot of different topics. This happened to be one of them. It was interesting to me. The data was pretty clear, and it just sparked an interest for me.
You know, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I know I'm fighting a losing battle. But there's so many of your children, if you listen, even your parents, who don't realize that they were misled, mistaught, and I'm gonna make one final statement, and I'm gonna say this, and I want you to listen to me. I had taught English for years and years and years before a professor at the University of Alabama pointed out the ways I had been teaching English and reading wrong. So this will not help. In other words, this will just put more emphasis on us, I think, in my opinion, as a state, of just continuing to put us where they put us, on the bottom. And please excuse me for this word, and being ignorant. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the resolution. I coming behind the reading expert, Dr. Barbara Beasley Boyd, Representative Esquire, who is very esteemed in her profession. Let me ask the question. We're going to take away the 3-query system, right?
3 queuing, yes, sir.
And we're going to replace it with what?
Well, we're already teaching phonics and science of reading, right? So that's
what system did you grow up under?
I learned phonics, sir.
That's how I learned. And most of us in here that can read, what I was taught, I mean, a lot of people call words, and they call it reading. But if you read and can obtain a thought, you're not reading.
Correct.
And what is going on now in this, you went to a conference. Have you ever taught school?
No, sir.
So you're not an educator. But you're going to tell educators how to educate.
Well, I think we all do that to some degree. We work on bills that we're not all experts in.
Would you tell a heart surgeon how to operate?
No, sir.
Or a gastrologist how to do upper GI?
No, sir, I would not.
but then but you can tell the educators how to teach reading, but you never taught. And it's so ironic that we have these issues coming before us. And as you said, National Reading Month. March is Women's History Month also. And there's a lot of more things they call it National Month in March. I want to call it National Windy Month. Because the wind blows all kinds of ways in March, you know. And the novel of Julius Caesar, Beware the Eyes of March. Some dangerous things happens during March. So you say you was up by the Department of Education to bring this bill to do away with the three-query system, and they are using this system now, or they are not using it now.
There are some schools using it.
Some kids learn by it. See, all of us have, some of us are sight learners, some visual, you know. Some people can read and pick it up the first time, then some people can't pick it up, they read it the 10th time, you know. Visualize it, put it in a picture, they can get it. So there are different techniques and methods for individuals to achieve. See, my reason for saying that, I was in the classroom. See, he was a coach. He dealt with kids on the field. I dealt with them in the classroom. I prepared them to go out there so they can understand the X's and O's. Dives. And they called it cross blocking. Call it's trapping now, isn't it? But see, the deterrent of that offensive and defensive player making it available for that running back to open up and run through to score. So there's all different types of methods of his teaching on the field. There's also the same in the classroom. I taught the kids in the classroom, and I found out that all of them was different. So we just can't just put a blanket on and make sure that one size does not fit all. And that's what troubles me with some of the things that have been happening in this chamber this year. We're bringing stuff so fast, and it's going to really take a while for systems to be changed for us to see the results of the change. So what are your prognosis of seeing the reading availability increase in this state through this process?
What are my what?
You got your prognostication of how you're going to measure the growth of the change of the systematic form of reading. What you propose to be your outcome with this new change. That's a simple question.
I just didn't hear it the first time. I didn't say it wasn't simple.
See what I'm saying? See, you listening, and I had to say it 3 times for you to get it. So
because I can't hear you.
So some of the kids in the same way, teaching one method, it doesn't reach everybody. That's what I'm saying. So what your measurability here? What do your outcome?
So the outcome is, at the end of the day, we have focused on for I don't know how many of the past few years, the science of reading, working through our Literacy Act to make sure that we are actually educating our kids and teaching them to actually read. This does not do that. There's plenty of evidence that supports that it is a very ineffective way of teaching kids to become readers.
Okay, so We are not teaching kids. They're not being effective through this method, so we're changing their method. And that's what you're telling me.
Phonics has been around for a long time. I don't think we're changing that method.
You can't, sounding the word is how you get to know. See, they see Dick run and see James spot and all that stuff, But now it's a whole different issue. You got SpongeBob in the reading book. I learned this somewhere on Mulberry Street, Dr. Seuss. So it's a whole different atmosphere as it takes to learning, because it's changing. Things are changing constantly. And so that's why we're going to bring in a new method of reading, even though you say, I got here through that method, and I thought they did pretty good teaching me how to read with that system. But education want to change. Do we want to change education? That's the question. But you didn't give me the outcome. What's your expectations? What percentages are now and where you expect them to be through this process?
I don't know what you mean by what percentages. What do you the percentage of kids that what?
That are not doing well under the system that you're using now. And with this new system, you're going to incorporate what your expectations for the percentages of increase. That's what I'm asking. You got to have a measuring tool.
I don't have a percentage. I don't know. What I do know is that this is something that the State Department feels is important. I happen to agree with them. That is what I can answer.
So, in other words, you just think that this bill is going to be good because somebody said it was going to be good?
Well, I don't believe that it's an effective way to teach people to read. I do believe that. I do think that teaching people how to decode words and actually learn how to sound them out works.
So, in other words, diagramming a sentence is not effective. Some people can't diagram sentences. So we need to change the way we teach English verb and subject agreement, because some people can't get it. But I think it's going to be maintained either way we look at it. Some people are going to learn by that method, some going to learn by what other method.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. What's for the body now is a passage of HB 173. Clerk will unlock the machine and members vote. Clerk will lock the machines, record the votes. 92 ayes, 2 nays, 8 abstentions. HB 173 has passed.
Mr. Speaker, I've been asked to open it for co-sponsors.
Okay, that is open up for questions. Open up for co-sponsor. Mr. Clerk, if you'll do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, lady. I'd like to recognize in the gallery, we've got a group from Spanish Fort, Junior City Council with Mayor Mike McMillan. Let's give them a hand to our guest, Representative Matt Simpson. The chair recognizes a gentleman from Morgan, Leader Stathagen, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, folks in the gallery, everyone's listening. I'm going to look at my Gabby notes real quick. We have got T-shirt order forms for the House versus Senate game from youth to adult sizes. If you need a form, come by the office, or we've got some up here on the table, and they are due by tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. The chair recognizes the lady from Mobile, Representative Wilcox, for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition.
This weekend and Thursday night, I got a lot of phone calls of support from y'all, and I really appreciate it about HB 51, my hearing aid bill. One of the nicest calls I got was from Representative Shaw, offering that should this bill pass the Senate, that he will personally go to his city council and county and ask that they join an opt-in. So I would appreciate it if y'all would consider doing that as well. But thank y'all so much for the calls and texts and for the support.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee. Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House stand adjourned.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.